May 13th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with the latest on the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas. Israel appears to have no interest in stopping the war in Gaza, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying the fight is only half done and that he has the responsibility to complete the mission. Russian President Vladimir Putin has replaced his defense minister Sergei Shoigu with a civilian who previously served as a first deputy prime minister. Putin cited the need for innovation as being the reason. Making people's lives better with active communication with the public will be the center of the Yoon administration's policies, the presidential office says, as it begins his third year in office this month. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the war between Israel and Hamas will continue as it's only half complete. The U.S. also reiterated concerns over the impact of a full-scale invasion in Rafah. Our Park Kwon starts us off.
After more than 7 months of war between Israel and Hamas, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered a message on Sunday local time that Israel will continue to fight.
Keep going until victory, and that's how we will do it. The spirit of the people, with God's help, will continue to lift us up in the faithful challenges that are still ahead of us and that we had in our 76 years of independence.
Speaking at a Yad Labanim ceremony for fallen soldiers held in Jerusalem, Netanyahu said that they have completed about half of the war, but also said they are committed to completing the sacred task, as it is the only way to defeat Hamas. On the same day, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken shared his thoughts on a recent report by the State Department on Israel's use of weapons sent by the U.S. after Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th.
We don't have double standards. We treat Israel, one of our closest allies and partners, just as we would treat any other country, including in assessing something like international humanitarian law and its compliance with that law.
While the report, which was submitted to Congress last Friday, indicated that Israel may have violated international humanitarian law, Blinken highlighted the difficulty of coming to that conclusion during wartime. He also stressed the Biden administration's stance that the U.S. would not support Israel and send weapons if Israel decides to go ahead with a full-scale invasion of Rafah. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan spoke with his Israeli counterpart Pattaya on Sunday, and after Sullivan expressed condolences for Israeli victims of the war, the two spoke about the ironclad U.S. commitment to Israel's security and the defeat of Hamas. While Sullivan also reiterated President Biden's concerns about the potential impact an Israeli military operation would have on the civilian population in the crowded city of Rafah, Hadnekvi confirmed that they have been taking that into account. Park Kwon, Arirang News.
The U.S. is doing all it can to stop Israel from staging an all-out assault on Rafah. The Biden administration is now reportedly offering Israel valuable assistance if it holds back. We're joined by Professor Mohamed Aguda for more. Welcome.
Happy to be here with you.
So the Washington Post reported over the weekend that the assistance includes sensitive intelligence to help Israeli forces pinpoint the location of Hamas leaders and assistance for Gaza, including shelters, medicines, and food. The U.S. really doesn't want the Rafah offensive to happen, does it?
By all means, I mean, of course. I mean, this is an election year, of course. It's big time for President Biden. The heat is on. We can see this in most of the campuses of major universities in U.S. So the pressure is piling on U.S. The international pressure is piling, and I think U.S. is trying its best to try to stop Israel from continuing its war, and especially going on to an offensive in Rafah, more than that what has already been done in the last few days.
Definitely. Then is the offer of this information important and actually appealing enough for Israel to be interested in? I mean, will Israel accept the offer?
I don't think so. I mean, if you look at what President Netanyahu has been saying, I think he reached a point of no return. Israel cannot stop its war right now because whatever goals that it has regarding defeating Hamas, which is, again, understanding what's the meaning of defeat is very hard for anybody. Does that mean killing all the Hamas leaders? Because there are lots of radicals and lots of Hamas officials still out there. So I think President Netanyahu will not be able to stop the war. He's continuing his war. And also the pressure is piling in Israel. It's very, very rough time in Israel. So I think Israel will continue its war, and President Netanyahu will not stop at this moment in time.
Right, Netanyahu appears to be pretty persistent and even stubborn, especially in the past few weeks. Now, Israel said Rafah offensive actually won't take place until around 800,000 people are evacuated out of the area. Now, how long will that actually take, and when will the expected attack be carried out?
Well, to be honest, I mean, at many moments in time, we have heard, I mean, some comments from Israel that evacuation will go on, that the humanitarian aid will enter into Rafah or into Gaza, but this didn't really happen whatsoever. So I don't think they will really wait until 800,000 people move to a safe place. I think they are already, the boots are already on the ground, and they are already starting the offensive. And again, I mean, they can't stop it now. If they stop it now, then they lose everything. They didn't free the hostages, they didn't defeat Hamas, so they will continue its war regardless of any kind of sanctions going on. And we see also looming international justice court, and there are lots of pressures also. So I think they will continue its war, and they will not stop evacuation right now.
Professor Gura, over the weekend, Hamas also released more footage of an Israeli hostage. Now, why is that? Is there some sort of strategy?
Of course, I totally agree. You can see also the pressure is piling more on Israel than on Hamas. Of course, I mean, all the major, countries are talking about Hamas, how they are bad, they should be defeated, but nobody have an idea what's the meaning of defeat. Even Secretary of State Blinken yesterday, he was talking also that Israel doesn't have any kind of vision regarding the day after Hamas is gone. Mm-hmm. We don't know what will happen. I mean, we can left to have insurgency, we can left to other radicals inside the Gaza, we can left to chaos. So nobody really knows. So Hamas is using its full power and using also its media to show that they are still controlling, and they're giving a message inside, I think, internally to Israelis that we still have the hostages, that Netanyahu is doing a failed job of releasing the hostages. So they are playing a very strategic game, and they are winning up to now.
Well, then let's talk about what the U.S. offered to Hamas now. U.S. President Joe Biden said there will be a ceasefire in Gaza tomorrow if Hamas actually lets go of those hostages. Will Hamas take the offer?
U.S. many times and Israel many times mentioned that they agree, this is one of the few points that they agree on right now, agree that Hamas should be eliminated from Gaza. And they said that we will do our best to eliminate Hamas from Gaza. So this is again for Hamas, like Israel, it's a point of no return. They know they cannot stop it now. They know they cannot release the hostages now because there is no room for them in the after-war time. So they are also doing their best to elongate this war and elongate the pressure until they reach some sort of ceasefire. Maybe in the future, where they can still have a role to play in Palestine. But up to now, this is not happening. They are still continuing, and there is no role for them, according to U.S. and Israeli officials.
So it looks like Hamas is just as persistent and stubborn as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. All right, Professor Gura, thank you so much for your insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Russian President Vladimir Putin replaced his defense and security chiefs on Sunday as Moscow continues an onslaught against Ukrainian territories. Our Yi Seung-jae has more.
More than 2 years into the war in Ukraine, and with his fifth term in office just beginning, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced Sunday that he's replacing his defense and security chiefs. The Russian president said that Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, who has led the Russian armed forces since 2012, will be replaced by Andrei Belousov. Belousov is an economist with no military experience, signaling that Putin is looking to change things up in the prolonged war. Shoigu, however, was appointed as the secretary of Moscow's Security Council, a consultative body that advises the Russian leader on military and strategic issues. On the other hand, Nikolai Patrushev was dismissed as Putin's intelligence chief, despite being widely considered as one of Putin's closest confidants. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov did not elaborate on the former intelligence chief's future, only saying that details will be announced in the coming days. Meanwhile, Russia continues its offensives in Kharkiv for the third day on Sunday, capturing 4 villages in the region, on top of the 5 taken by the Russian military the day before, with Ukraine struggling to defend against a recent Russian onslaught. The governor of Kharkiv says thousands of people have been evacuated from the northern region bordering Russia. Watchers say the latest barrage of attacks may be part of Russia's planned spring offensives. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
After a disappointing outcome at the parliamentary election last month, President Yoon begins his third year in office, determined to focus on improving livelihoods and communicating better. Our presidential correspondent Oh Soo-young has more.
Improving livelihoods and communication with the public will be at the centre of President Yoon Suk-yeol's policies as he begins his third year in office with a revamped team of senior aides. That's according to presidential spokesperson Kim Soo-young in a briefing Sunday, following Yoon's 3-year milestone on May 10th. Kim said Yoon will first get to work on taming inflation on everyday goods, forming a task force to monitor and stabilise consumer prices. He will further support new strategic industries to ramp up exports, which would subsequently benefit domestic suppliers and subcontractors. This week, Yoon will resume a series of policy discussions with the public to hear about their struggles and seek solutions, along with holding national strategy meetings also focused on livelihoods. After his ruling People Power Party suffered a heavy defeat in the general election last month, Yoon has pledged to reform his administration's communication and management to become more receptive to public opinion. He is the first South Korean leader to have an opposition majority in parliament throughout his entire presidency. According to Kim, the top office last week completed its reshuffle, forming Yoon's third lineup of senior staff. His new Chief of Staff and Senior Secretary for Political Affairs are aiming to better navigate policy agendas and relations with the National Assembly. Meanwhile, the revived role of Senior Secretary for Civil Affairs aims to help discern public sentiment, while the Senior Secretary for Civil Society will communicate with diverse sectors of society. Noting that the ruling party has also been taking steps towards reform, with a new emergency committee chairman and floor leader in place. Kim said the top office will work closely with the ruling party on policies that meet the public's expectations and bring tangible changes to their lives. Also, as Yoon looks to cooperate with the opposition Democratic Party of Korea, given its hold of 175 seats in the 300-seat assembly, he has initiated a meeting with its leader Lee Jae-myung. But bipartisan clashes have continued in Parliament over a bill the opposition railroaded through on opening a special probe into the death of a Marine last year. Kim said going forward, the Yoon administration will focus solely on the people and their livelihoods rather than political strife. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Police in Thailand are hunting for 2 Korean nationals suspected of kidnapping and murdering a South Korean man in Pattaya, following the arrest of a 3rd suspect in South Korea. According to the Korean embassy in Thailand, Thai police discovered the body of a Korean man in his 30s in a large container filled with cement on May 11th. The victim is known to have come to Thailand on April 30th, while his mother received a phone call from the suspect a week later looking for money, telling her that the victim owed them money for discarding drugs worth over $80,000. She then informed the Korean embassy in Thailand. Gyeongnam Police Agency said Monday that one of the suspects, who was known to have returned to Korea, was arrested at his residence on Sunday. Over in Italy, the 2024-2025 Korea-Italy Year of Culture Exchange, which officially began last Saturday, is well underway. Both countries will be engaging in a wide array of cultural programs to strengthen ties and promote mutual understanding. Our culture correspondent Song Yujin has this report.
Rome, often referred to as the Eternal City, stands as a cornerstone of Western civilization, boasting centuries-old architectural marvels, art, and beauty. Now picture a traditional Korean dance performance in the heart of this Italian capital. Dancers dressed in hanbok move gracefully to the tunes of traditional Korean music. This is the National Gugak Center's production, The Prince's Dream. So with this opening performance, the Cedar Stream here at the Teatro Argentina in Rome, the Korea-Italy era mutual cultural exchange has officially kicked off. The two countries have declared 2024 to 2025 as a year of cultural exchange.
This performance tells the tale of a crown prince stepping out of the palace to learn, feel, and understand the lives of his people. Accompanied by traditional music and dances such as Tepengmu, dance to hope for a prosperous world, and Saipurichum, dance to comfort departed souls. This show holds particular significance as we celebrate 140 years of diplomatic relations between Korea and Italy.
The Korea-Italy year of cultural exchange was declared by the leaders of the two countries during their summit in Seoul last November to enhance bilateral ties through cultural diplomacy. The project comes in perfect timing as Korean culture has seen a surge in popularity in Italy over the past several years.
The reason why certain Italians became very interested on Korea drama and etc. Yeah, so COVID plus the widespreading, Netflix, and second and third, I would say that students start to become very curious about. They want to know more about Korea beyond what they see, and for this reason, the number of students increase continuously.
As part of the initiative, the Culture Ministry will organize exhibitions featuring experienced Korean artists, tourism fairs, and festivals showcasing contemporary dance and cinema in Italy. Renowned Korean sculptor Park Eun-sun's Colonna Infinita will be showcased at key landmarks in Rome, including the Piazza Bocca della Verita, for 4 months, starting in June.
I've been living and working in Italy for 31 years. I'm really grateful that my pieces will be showcased in Rome as part of the Korea-Italy Year of Cultural Exchange and the 140th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two countries.
Through these efforts, the Korea-Italy Year of Cultural Exchange aims to introduce the diverse facets of Korean culture, not just K-pop and K-dramas.
But if you ask about Korea, they talk about Hallyu, all contemporary things, skincare, beauty, technology, high technology, all these things. It's like if Korea from a very poor country became rich, and there's no history behind.
While Korea is predominantly known for its modern cultural experts, like K-pop and dramas in Italy, it's important to recognize Korea's rich historical heritage and the diverse cultural treasures it offers, which we aim to introduce to Italy.
Throughout this year and the next, both countries hope to discover and explore more of each other's culture. 송유진, Arirang News, Rome.
Good morning, I'm Kim Si-young, and now we turn to stories from around the world. We begin today in Canada, which is seeing the season's first major wildfires. Evacuation orders were given out to residents amid air quality warnings across several provinces. As of Sunday morning local time, 40 active fires had burned more than 441,000 acres across Canada. In Western Canada's British Columbia, over 19,000 acres have been burned by Sunday as firefighters try to control the Parker Lake wildfire, the largest fire in the region. Thousands of residents in British Columbia, including the entire town of Fort Nelson, have been evacuated. In Alberta, residents of Fort McMurray, a regional oil hub, have been asked to prepare for evacuation. The Alberta regional government said there are 2 out-of-control extreme wildfires ongoing, burning over 13,000 acres over the weekend. While Canada's wildfire season typically starts in May and continues through to September, Canadian authorities are preparing for one of the worst wildfire seasons ever, as the warm winter and ongoing drought are expected to exacerbate the fires. Moving over to Afghanistan, the devastating floods in the country's northern Baghlan province have left at least 315 dead and more than 1,600 people injured as of Sunday. Many remain missing, and authorities have declared a state of emergency. The World Food Programme said on Sunday that it is distributing fortified biscuits to survivors of one of the many floods from the past few weeks. The Taliban's Ministry for Refugees said that thousands of homes were damaged and that the floods have killed many livestock in the region. The Taliban's Air Force reportedly dispatched helicopters over the weekend, transporting more than 100 injured civilians to military hospitals. In sports news, Spanish football team Real Madrid has won the title in Spain's top football league, La Liga. Winning the 36th title in the club's history, Real Madrid showed off their trophy on Sunday on a victory bus tour around Spanish capital Madrid before heading to the club's traditional celebration spot, the Cibeles Fountain. Real Madrid captain Jose Ignacio Fernandez Iglesias, known as Nacho, raised the La Liga trophy to thousands of excited fans in Madrid as they celebrated the title, losing just one league game in the entire season. Swiss rapper and singer Nemo won the 2024 edition of the Eurovision Song Contest on Saturday in the Swedish city of Malmö. 24-year-old Nemo won the contest with his mixed-genre drum and bass, opera, rap and rock song called The Code, which is about Nemo's journey as a non-binary person. This year's final round of the feel-good Eurovision contest saw political tensions as large crowds of pro-Palestinian protesters gathered outside of the venue, shouting chants such as Eurovision, united by genocide.
Good morning. Saturday was a rainy one, then on Sunday, sunshine returned with yellow dust. A new week is starting off under bright skies with much improved air quality. Meanwhile, east of Gangwon-do is under a dry weather advisory today, so please stay alert against wildfires, while southern regions in Jeju Island will have very strong UV rays during the day today. Meanwhile, wide gaps between lows and highs continue, easily surpassing 10 degrees in most places. Afternoon temperatures will also go up 1 to 4 degrees higher this afternoon. Taking a closer look at today's highs now, Seoul gets up to 24 degrees. Daejeon and Gwangju will see a high of 25 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Plenty of sunshine will shine down nationwide all day today. Then we have rain in the forecast for Buddha's birthday this Wednesday in central and southeastern regions. Rain could linger through early Thursday in Gyeongsang-do provinces, so plan accordingly for any outdoor activities. But sunshine returns at the end of the week. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for Tuesday's edition at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.
한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 웰컴. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
So, you want a special experience? What? Travel? Meet K-pop stars? Wow! Okay, tell me, who do you like? Of course I know them. Here's a tip. You can travel and meet K-pop stars. What? You don't trust me? Who do you take me for? Okay, come close. Closer. Simply K-pop contour. No need to thank me. Oh, you're watching Simply K-pop Contour. You're watching Arirang.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, look my way. Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
We are here to bring a new type of news show. New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Monday, May 13th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yejin, and this is News Generation. Joining me in the studio is Choi Ji-hee. Good morning. Happy Monday, and Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
Now, both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. Now, we're going to begin with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online over the past 24 hours. We start in Sweden, where the 68th Eurovision Song Contest took place on Saturday local time. Switzerland's Nemo was crowned the winner with the song The Code. Now, Nemo was the first non-binary Eurovision champion and the first Swiss winner since Celine Dion in 1988. Now, this year's Eurovision has been called the most tumultuous edition yet, and there were large protests over Israel's participation, continuing right up to the day of the finals. Now, moving on to the United States, it seems that one of the world's most esteemed award ceremonies is grappling with financial challenges. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced on Friday that it's launching a global fundraising campaign named Academy 100, aiming to raise $500 million by 2028. According to the Academy CEO Bill Kramer, this initiative is to diversify revenue sources and ensure the longevity of their programs. Now, this comes after the Oscars TV broadcast saw a decline in audience viewership, dropping from nearly 44 million domestic viewers in 2014 to 19.5 million this year. Finally, back here in Korea, May is festival season for universities here. Stages featuring renowned K-pop artists have become somewhat of a must for a fun festival, making preparations burdensome for universities. Now, domestic news outlets report that universities in Seoul spend roughly 150 to 300 million Korean won, which is around $110,000 to $219,000 on their festivals every year, with some allocating half of the budget solely for the performers. But as the cost of booking artists continues to rise, this has even forced one Seoul-based university to cancel its festival this year due to budgetary constraints. So I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on this fierce competition among universities to secure top artists for their lineups?
I know that it's been a long-standing tradition here in Korea to have the best entertainment possible at the concerts. It's unlike anywhere else that I've seen around the world. But I really think, personally, the money could go to better things like infrastructure or better facilities for the students.
Right.
However, saying that, if the students are willing to sacrifice those upgraded infrastructures and facilities just to see some of the best, artists that Korea has to offer, then I guess it's not a big deal after all.
Right, because it's the students who are going to enjoy these festivals. So
That's correct.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Now, what are your thoughts, Chi-hee?
Well, I'm actually planning to go to one of these university festivals because same one, I think. Yeah, because they started offering a day of festivities for the alumni. Yes, and the lineup includes renowned artists and idol bands. I think Chico, Psy, IVE, right? So as the spectator, I'm really excited to watch them perform live. And in my opinion, as long as universities can afford it, it's perfectly fine to allocate a significant budget to feature famous artists, especially since these events are primarily for students and also for the alumni. However, the budget shouldn't come from the students, as in the ticket prices should always stay reasonable.
Yeah, because we're seeing some of these ticket prices going really high. So I think that's really important to maintain that balance between an appropriate amount of budget and also a festival that students can all enjoy. So if you have a chance, I hope you get to experience one of the university festivals here in Korea. And that was our news feed for this Monday. So now we're going to move on to our main discussion of the day. Today, we're going to talk about the ongoing controversies within the K-pop industry that have been sparking fierce debate recently. So take a listen to find out. The big question in K-pop these days, what's going on between HYBE and Minhan, the CEO of HYBE's sub-label Adore? It all started 2 weeks ago when HYBE filed a legal complaint against Min for breach of trust after launching an audit into Adore and asking Min to step down. Min has been refuting these allegations and firing back, alleging that HYBE has been exploiting Adore and mistreating the label's girl group, NewJeans. This public fight, now stretching on for weeks, isn't just about the fate of their respective artists. It has also sparked broader discussions about the K-pop industry as a whole. So this is a huge issue. So let's first dive deeper into the latest in the HYBE-Minhan conflict. So Ji, could you please bring us up to speed on how this feud has been playing out?
Sure. So recently there was a dispute between BTS entertainment company HYBE and its subsidiary label Adore's CEO Minhan. So there are allegations of HYBE copying the concept of New Jeans, which was produced by Minhan. So she's called like the mother of New Jeans.
Right.
And HYBE apparently copied this group to create a new girl band called ILIT. And HYBE owns 11 different labels, including Big Hit Music, Belief Lab, and Source Music. And meanwhile, Minhan held a press conference regarding the whole dispute that garnered international attention and gained positive attention from the public for being very frank and confident about her stance and fight with HYBE as an individual.
Right.
However, Reuters reported that the dispute was a blow to South Korea's lucrative K-pop industry, with HYBE's share price falling and hopes for a launch in new music from New Jeans, as well as the partial comeback of BTS dampening.
Right, and I think that there is still a long way to go to solve this conflict, because I heard that Adore is going to hold its shareholders meeting and it's trying to prevent HYBE from exercising its voting rights, which HYBE is trying to do to get rid of Bin from her position. So it seems that it will take some time for this conflict to be solved. But this is not the only issue that has been buzzing in the K-pop scene. There have been some other issues and controversies, right?
Yeah, well, this has definitely been the biggest one, I think, this year. But there are always tons of so-called K-pop scandals that go through the universe of K-pop on a yearly basis. Now, two examples that jump to my mind, for instance, the controversy over the Blackpink singers, Rosé and Jisoo's performance at the Coachella. Now, they made history being one of the very first K-pop bands to play at Coachella.
Right.
But the thing was that the other two members, Jennie and Lisa, were arguably having louder mics, and they are supposed to be the more popular of the group compared to Jisoo and Rosé. So there was a lot of controversy behind that, when in Korea we see as a lot of our idols as very much on the same page, rather than backup singers like you would see in the Western society. And of course, we've talked about it not too long ago, Aspa's Karina's public relationship and how that went. There was a massive ripple effect from that. Fans continued to protest, including staging a truck protest in front of SM, and this had to lead the singer to write a handwritten apology and post it online to apologize to her fans, which I don't believe she should have needed to do it. But this also led to the ultimately breaking up, which as I said, I think it was crazy that happened.
Right, a lot of things have been going on, and another issue that I remember is the girl group Le Sserafim performing at Coachella this year, because fans were quite surprised about their live singing abilities. So that was another issue that has been buzzing in the scene. And going back to the HYBE Minhan conflict, now it's been almost 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks since this conflict broke out, and we have been seeing some great reaction, not only from the media but from the public and fans as well, right?
That's right. After Minhan's press conference, her statements were widely shared online. I'm sure you've seen some of them.
Yeah.
And even turned into memes. And even her outfit and cap she wore during the conference sold out on many fashion platforms. And many office workers in particular found her remarks relatable and took vicarious pleasure in seeing her fight against a large company as an individual alone. However, some viewed her negatively as well, accusing her of orchestrating a clever public relations campaign, given that she already earns 2 billion won per year.
Right, so a lot of mixed point of views and divisive opinions regarding this issue. Now, Walter, do you have anything to add on?
Well, for me, as a member of the public, I'm going to be more critical of the fans in this situation. I do observe K-pop fandom culture quite often. I think it is absolutely ridiculous the amount of influence that the fans have on K-pop artists' personal life. When it comes to the artist's professional life, I can completely understand, because it's because of the fans they are so popular, and they should be very thankful. The artists should be very thankful to the fans. But to be involved in their personal life, I think, is pushing the limits, especially when it comes to romantic relationships, at least. So this is a little bit different with Adore and HYBE, but yeah, I think K-pop fans should calm down, and that's not something that you should really say on live TV, but I honestly think they should calm down and back off and leave them to their personal life.
Right, so a lot to talk about regarding these issues surrounding the K-pop scene. So we're going to expand our discussion now and going to invite an expert in the industry to find out more about what all of this means for the K-pop landscape. We'll be right back, so stay tuned. Right, so today we're joined by Professor Cedar B, Assistant Professor of Korean and East Asian Studies at Busan National University. Welcome, Professor, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So we've been talking about all these issues surrounding the K-pop scene. Now, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on these recent stories that have been making headlines regarding the K-pop sector?
Well, there certainly is a lot to talk about. I think that one of the things I've been paying attention to, in addition to some of the topics you've just introduced, is this issue around sajegi or chart rigging allegations against BTS. And this is actually alleged to have occurred in 2015 when BTS was still a relatively unknown group. And it's connected to a court case from 2017. But because there was this citizen petition to the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism, and the ministry has ordered COCA to investigate, then fans have sort of stepped up to protect their beloved artists. And there's been a lot of, shall I say, pitting BTS against the Korean people at large in some of the fan discourse. It's been very sad to see that, because I think that truly believing in BTS as artists would be to ignore this kind of noise and to just wait for these allegations to be proved untrue. So so that's one of the things I've been paying attention to. But of course, fans have also had a lot to say about LE SSERAFIM's live singing ability at Coachella in April. And I think this is actually an issue that's endemic to the K-pop industry. Groups tend to dance live, but not always sing live, even when theoretically they are. And it's really difficult because K-pop albums are so highly produced that it is really difficult to match that recorded track when you're singing, especially if you're dancing at the same time. And so I'm going to have to believe that as LE SSERAFIM grows and gains more experience as artists, that their live singing ability, of course, will improve as well. But they are certainly not the only artists who have this issue. And of course, you've introduced the issue with HYBE and Minhan, but just wanted to say on this, on the issue with Islet potentially copying New Jeans, this again is something that we see in the K-pop industry again and again and again, because the K-pop industry loves to copy hit trends and successful artists. So the complicated part here is the fact that Min, who technically works for, Bang Shi-hyuk, is alleging that her own boss has ripped off her own intellectual property. And so that, as you can, understand, is a very sensitive thing that goes, perhaps cuts deeper than some of the financial maneuvering that other people have been focusing on.
Well, so you mentioned the conflict between HYBE and Minhan, and my question is related to this. Do you believe that this recent conflict between the two has in fact brought attention to some of the deeper issues within the industry?
Well, I think we've seen for a really long time that there are very few women who are working at a higher level in the K-pop industry. And so part of this HYBE versus Minhan issue is definitely how difficult it is for a woman to succeed in a high-level, high-stress line of work in Korea. And Min's desire to have more financial or management control over her sub-label and her artists, I think it really resonates with a lot of women in Korea who similarly see themselves working tirelessly while a man may take the credit. And you know, I think some of Min's choices in regards to New Jeans have embraced controversy in ways that I didn't think was necessary, but she has a very long career, and she's proven herself to have a very astute eye for what K-pop fans will respond to. She's a very, very talented producer, and unfortunately, making this fight big and ugly is benefiting no one. HYBE's stocks took a big hit, fans are angry, and the general public is really confused about why there's all this mudslinging happening within a single company.
Right, and in what ways do you think the K-pop industry can tackle these challenges moving forward?
Well, I think the K-pop industry has three large hurdles that they need to overcome right now. First, the industry is really focused on growth over quality, and I would like to see a focus on health, well-being, and artistic development for the existing artists rather than constantly debuting new idols. It seems like right now a lot of the companies are focusing less on training artists than just debuting multiple acts and hoping that someone strikes it big. And it's become really hard to keep up with new releases at this point. So second, the industry is really built on fan labor and fan finances, and fans are being made to feel responsible for the success of artists due to purchases and streams and all of that. And success has become very quantified. It's all about numbers. It's not discussed in terms of musical and performance qualities. And this is both exhausting and financially difficult for fans, and it's difficult for idols as well, because this loyalty, this close relationship that they create with their fans, this parasocial relationship as we call it, is built on the idol's endless emotional labor. So they're required not just to perform, but also to emotionally connect. And third, and this really goes back to the issue with HYBE right now, this industry has been built on these really powerful, theocratic CEOs who are also music producers who make their decisions behind closed doors. But K-pop agencies have become publicly traded companies, and they're increasingly important to the Korean economy. And we need more transparency, more systematic governance. And I think that would really help diffuse some controversies and calm the market for the good of investors and fans and idols and everyone else.
Right. All right, Professor Seiji, thank you so much for your valuable insights today. We really appreciate it.
All right. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Right, so back here in the studio, I want to ask you guys, what are your thoughts on the reasons why we're seeing these so-called fundamental issues or concerns being raised in the K-pop scene right now?
I think the professor mentioned it well. The intense competition within the industry and the increasing number of these groups being produced have led to a certain level of uniformity in terms of their music as well as the style and the choreography. So as a result, fans have started treating these groups as commodities rather than cultures, because they look all uniform and they're just there like products. And this has led to fans scrutinizing idol groups' performances as well very closely. And like you've mentioned, there have been controversy surrounding some groups' poor live performances, and they've resulted in stricter standards for all these idol groups as well. And as the professor mentioned, it's really hard to perform, sing and dance at the same time. And these songs are just highly produced and really hard to follow. But fans, because they're so used to them now, they're looking at these groups more closely and strictly.
Right, and I think the reason why they're being so used to this high, like this tough singing and dancing performances is because this has sort of become that success model that Professor Seiji has mentioned. So a lot of people are expecting their artists to perform likely as well. Now, what are your thoughts, Walter?
I'd like to stick to the relationship between the fans and obviously the idols. Fans are excessively empathizing authenticity and sincerity in the marketing of efforts showing their fandom towards the idols. I completely get that. Now, there are many platforms aimed at strengthening communication between their favorite idols. Social media is just a great example of using one. But there are also, you know, shows, like reality TV shows also being produced about their favorite idols, etc. But however, when these idols actually start dating, the fans somewhat feel betrayed, which I do not personally understand. The emotional labor of idols is becoming increasingly burdensome. They feel like they can't live their own life, even though, yes, they do have a very out of the ordinary style of life. They are these big stars. A lot of attention is put onto them, but at the end of the day, they're just human beings with the same mental capacity as we do. But I think about it this way: if you're investing money in idols, that's fine, because a lot of people invest money in stocks, and I completely get it. But when you invest money in stocks, you don't really care about what the CEO of the company is doing with their personal life. You're just making sure that they're doing their business correctly. And I think that's the way that they should approach idols as well. Yes, it's okay to invest into your idols because you love them so much, but at least give them the freedom to be who they are by themselves when they're not at work.
Right, because at the end of the day, as you mentioned, they're also just people like us. And last but not least, expanding on this, where do you believe the K-pop industry and its fandom culture should be heading?
Well, I totally agree with Walter. And many idol groups have young members who are still growing, and they may be really vulnerable to all these all sort of exploitation. So I think it's important to first of all create a culture that respects these individuals as human beings rather than mere commodities or products, and really respect their personal life. And also the practice of manipulating music charts like the ones our professor has mentioned, through the hoarding of albums and also copying music, should be better regulated through legal means.
Right, for a more sustainable and healthy K-pop culture and a fandom culture as well. What about you, Walter?
I think it's simple, and I'm going to stay to this topic of, you know, the relationship area, which is stick to the professional side of things rather than the personal side of things. It's like if someone was bothering you outside of work. If you're a K-pop fan, you wouldn't want someone to be bothering you outside of work, because being in work anyway is stressful enough. The last thing you want is someone to be also hounding at you, especially what you're doing with your personal life outside of your working conditions. So that's where I'd like to see the K-pop fan culture and the K-pop culture move towards, is more of a friendly, ethical environment.
Right, and maintaining that balance is really, really important. So hope our discussion today helps create a more healthier and sustainable culture, both for K-pop artists and K-pop fans. And that's all we have for today, but NewsGen is here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Choi Ji-hee.
Always a pleasure.
And Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, who's lying? Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?